Singularity workshop. This is how it started. But Pedro is somebody who will start to talk more in details, more advanced topics in the afternoon. So I will just give a minute or two for both of them, Pedro and Brigitte, to say a few words. Pedro.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Pedro Ojeda, so I'm working at HPC2N in Umeå as an application expert. We are collaborating in this type of training courses, yeah, with UPPMAX.
And Brigitte, I have the first mail.
Yes, I am also from HPC2N. My name is Brigitte Brusel, and I also work as an application expert. And I am mainly going to record this course. I will possibly listen in the background, but probably not really say much. But I will record the course, and I will leave the recording running until lunch. Then I will put it on pause, and then I will start it again in the afternoon. If there is exercises and things like this, if people are asking anything, I will cut that out from the recording, so you don't need to worry about that. That will disappear, and so will the things in between, like I started it slightly earlier, or things like this. And I will then handle the recording in the afternoon or the evening. I will process it, and it will probably be up tomorrow on HPC2N's YouTube channel. And I will share the link to that here in the chat later to HPC2N's YouTube channel. Okay, but that's it. Enjoy.
Thanks. So just the last information related to that is that if you ask questions online, I will urge you. So you will have plenty of time to interrupt me because there will be pauses while we are exercising. So if you don't hesitate, just go live and ask the question. I will repeat it so Brigitte can cut that question. So we keep it kind of as not personal as possible. So there are no complaints later. Otherwise, type questions in the chat. There is a new feature that you can reply in a thread. So Pedro will be able to reply to that or some of the other participants. So let's try to keep it structured. So this is, I can't see it because now there is a sensitive information in the chat. But the other option that we are going to use is HackMD. Probably you've seen that one. So that was the official channel before. It's convenient because it uses Markdown. If you're not familiar, try to keep it as simple, but as soon as you go there, you can click on the middle icon here on the left. It's a little bit squeezed on my screen. On the left, you have the source of the text in Markdown. So you can have some magic there. But you can type your question, and with a delay, with some more details, they will appear later. Either Pedro will reply, or in the afternoon, it will be me who will be replying there behind the scenes. So this course traditionally runs on the two extremes. Some of you are really at the basic level, and I can't go too fast, but some of you are already having quite some experience and you ask difficult questions. So we will try to balance it. And probably HackMD is the place where you want to pinpoint exactly what's your problem. I can see that some of you already had some questions. Those were even before we started. I will just slightly, briefly address it, and I will say when I will reply them. So discuss concepts of Docker versus containers. That's a little bit ill-defined because Docker creates images in terms of Docker. And when you run the image, that one is what is called a container. In Singularity, I will make those actually merge together because you will create image, but that's the same container that we will going to run, etc. So there is a way that you can have actually services running in Singularity. So you can divide it again. So image, which is the single file that you will see soon, and a container which is running. But for the sake of this course right now, the simple, I will make them identical. So I will show you also the statistics for the registration. So most of you have some experience with Docker, which makes it easier. I will make parallels. I will make parallels with other virtualization and environment, isolation, integrations, and things like that. You might not be able to understand everything, but at least I will try to make it simple enough and bring some important ideas. The idea of the workshop is actually, this is not very linear workshop. The material, if you follow the original Singularity documentation, is much more precise, it's better to follow. But the goal of the workshop is that I will present you ideas, what are the basic concepts, which will help you to go through the documentation, how to learn. Because also from experience, many of the problems that you will bring are not Singularity related, but they are system administration related. You will have the same difficulties if you try to set up that on your computer. But inevitably, adding Singularity limitations or restrictions will impact that. So this is more important to bring and discuss than actually going over the whole material, all the functions that you can find in Singularity and so on. Here is a question about difference between Apptainer and en route containers. So I'm not experienced, so I will not comment. I just briefly checked, and that points to NVIDIA Docker implementation, which I know that the main feature is that you can run Docker as non-root or not without the elevated privileges. Now the story is that none of this I am aware is running on any of the Swedish clusters around, and the implementation is not unique in any sense. Well, it's unique, it's NVIDIA behind it. But there are other projects that also allows you to run as user without elevated privileges, and they differ in different aspects. Some of them are better, and if you start counting them, they are countless. I mean, you can go even with the popular snaps under Ubuntu. There's L and some abbreviations. There is one that I really liked where you get one file, you don't install anything, you just run. It's excellent, but it's a nightmare to run it, to build it. So I stick with that reason to Singularity. You can imagine also under Mac, you have this .image or EMG. This is actually a container. You run, you don't install anything. But again, I'm not specialist, so I will not go into these details. Unfortunately, this means that I can't answer much about that question. I will bring it quite soon. What is a recipe? We will talk about that one. So essentially, that's the idea that I will show you how it looks like before we even run Singularity. So when you run it, you have an idea what is actually running. Compare all of a sudden, go there, etc. What's the extension? Recipe file. I think nowadays is assumed to be .def from a definition file, but you can use even .txt. What is also common for the container extension is SIF from Singularity. I forgot, we will see it. I have it somewhere in the materials. Is it just a sequence of codes where we build container and install stuff inside that? Yes, very close. So if you've seen how Docker is building, it's very close. And I'm very close to say that it's almost, the analogy is very close. You can easily convert from one to the other one. But there are small details that makes them really significantly different. And I will probably try to explain that one as well. Let me see, and the last one, containers versus built environments provided by HPC centers. I think the easiest way to tell you that a software that runs high performance or massively parallel will perform better without virtualization or containerization. Pedro will tell you more in the afternoon. There are certain problems which are involved, and it comes on top of usually these softwares might come with troubles installing libraries, etc. So installing directly on the machine already has problems, and adding Singularity on top is not exactly problems that you are looking for. Or I would say what you gain is on par what you lose. So I will probably, in another workshop, I usually say that if I can install a software without any virtualization, I don't see a particular reason. I will do it. I'm in favor of probably referring to Python if I use Python virtual environments because it's simple. Then quite easily you can exhaust this option if you need a different Python version. Then my choice is Conda. There are other solutions, but because I'm fed up already with different alternatives and solutions, etc. So I'm trying to narrow down my toolbox. So this is exactly, if you know already or you've been trying to learn Docker, all of a sudden you have to learn Singularity. And even in my case, when I started, it's like, oh, do I really want that one? So the idea is like really to tell you what you can do better with Singularity. So you can make your choice. Do I stick with Docker or do I move to or rebuild or convert to Singularity, do I gain something or etc. So about that time when I was on this staircase with features, when I can't do it with Conda, I easily choose or resolve, look for help from Singularity, and you will see probably soon. Why I'm telling you that, because in this staircase, or you could say it, Docker comes above Singularity. Docker has much more features, it's much more powerful, but this is exactly that at some point at the level of Singularity, I have everything that I need in most of the cases. So I don't need advanced features of Docker or complications. So this is the right balance for many of the problems that you want to run. So if I remove from that question the high performance, this tool is perfectly suited for bioinformaticians that run on a single node. The first problem arrives when you want to run on multiple nodes. And this, again, Pedro will talk a little bit more because you have to see it in two different ways. Either you're sitting inside the container or you're outside, and there's two different ways how you actually interact with what's inside the container. So we will talk when we approach that part. Pedro already started replying to that question. Again, he will talk more in the afternoon. I'm trying to just go through the list and I will ask you if you have any questions on what I've said. But at the same time, I will prefer to interrupt me and ask a question because that will be actually might benefit the rest of the participants. And it brings a little bit more dynamics to the discussion. The other question was how to convert Docker images to Singularity. I have added a link, but at the same time, I will show you how it's one of the exercises. What's the difference between Apptainer and Singularity? Yes, Pedro is correct. They split a couple of years ago. And it's, for me, it looks very similar to, some of you might remember that there was OpenOffice, that some of the developers started LibreOffice. So nowadays, LibreOffice is more popular than OpenOffice. I'm not sure that this is the situation yet for Apptainer, but looking on how Singularity is developing, actually they're adopting some of the Apptainer new features and vice versa. So we'll see. I can't say anything for sure. Right. Before we start, I will just bring, so everyone knows why I'm talking so much about basics, or why I'm bringing Docker or any other things. It's just because the audience is, this is the shape or how it looks like for me, the audience. This is the first year in any course that we have most of the participants from, or at least the people that registered from Karolinska. Then we have Chalmers, I can see Uppsala, then other universities. So it's a large variety. Quite commonly, there were a lot of participants from Lund. There are somewhere here, only 2. I asked a question because there are like 4 basic concepts that I want to cover in this workshop. So if I focus on this, I will just tell you how to build, how to run, how to pull from Docker, and perhaps share your containers. And the third is most or many of you will look also for containers that allows you to make a reproducible setup. And that goes to research and etc. That needs a little bit longer discussion, but this is the main topics. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I will smuggle a lot of other things around this. I can recognize a colleague of mine at the IT department here asking about SnakeMake. So the easiest way to address that one is when Pedro started talking about MPI. Those problems are identical or very relevant to a SnakeMake. Because SnakeMake, when you want to communicate with Slurm and multiple nodes, this is exactly facing the same problems. Most of you are familiar with Linux, Windows, and Mac, so which is actually changing the distributions over the year. Linux is the easiest way to build and run Singularity. Windows, if you go with the virtual box setup and Vagrant, it works. That's the official setup. I immediately can tell you before you will run. Some of you, I can bet that almost half of you are having a bioinformatics background, and you're looking for a solution for how to set up R. One of the most common problem building under Vagrant on Mac and Windows is that the virtual machines that are created are too small. So by default, they're created with 0.5 gigabyte RAM, and installing R packages is not, that memory is not enough. You need to experiment. You probably need at least 1 gigabyte, and depending how large is your project, I've been in a situation I need more than 8. And at that point, you really need a dedicated machine to build something which is a virtual machine. I can see, I said Docker. This is really nice because if I compare with most of the other alternatives, Singularity is as closest to Docker. The syntax is very close, and not because anything else, but Docker is using like bash commands that you can execute on the shell and build. So it is easy to make the parallel, and at the same time saying, okay, this is what is different and make it special, or you must keep track on that, or etc. At the same time, they are kind of virtualization. So knowing a little bit about virtual machines like VirtualBox, VMware, QEMU, clouds, there are also parallels there, but I try to actually simplify it. We have quite some beginners with Linux, and that is troublesome because what we are going to do is building recipes, and I have simple recipes. But usually what you will end up is trying to set up something complicated. If it was simple, it's simple to do it without a container. So you really need to have good knowledge or experience with system administration. I'm not scaring you, but I'm just saying that it will boil to 50% or even more skills, how to build a container, is how to administer or install software, or some tricks about that. And the last one is over the years, most of you apparently bought a second screen, or you have access to second screen. This is really nice. We still have some people, at least two registry. No, that's 3 screens, but this is 9 out of the registered have 1 screen. So that's the reason why I have this weird small screen. So you can put it on one side or squeeze it as much as you can, and you can have the other half, hopefully half, for you, where you can have shell or window or anything, or at least I don't occupy the whole screen. Right, I copy pasted the questions back. With that one, I will stop and I will ask if you have some questions before we start on how the workshop is organized, goals, or if I'm missing something which you think it's important that I have to talk about. I kind of calmed down over the years, so probably this, I hope it's a nice pace. The material is, I will try to paste always in the chat at what page I am, the workshop material. So that's the home page. If you have it on your screen, it might look slightly different. This is how it looks like. Usually for me, when I use the whole screen, I'm actually always use the dark mode. So if your eyes are burning, you can easily switch to dark. And if I can squeeze a joke, do you know why actually developers like dark mode? It's a silly joke, because light attracts bugs. But in this case, I will keep it, the light, it seems to be much more visible, or at least that's how I think it looks. Or I'm biased, probably this is how it looks on the widescreen or the projector. So I will have that one on top, and I will, on the bottom, will have my terminal. So they overlap a little bit, so I have some space from bottom to show. And I will flip, but I'll try to be not intrusive. And I will wait and paste as much as possible so you can have the exact comments. I hope you can see what I'm typing, that they are large enough, the terminal and the material. If not, just say so or write in the chat. I can enlarge it a little bit.